Have you ever found yourself lying in bed at 1:30 a.m., scrolling through your phone, and wondered where the night went? Alex Johnson had, 17 years old, a senior in high school, and ambitious, but also endlessly distracted. He knew this feeling all too well. That night, like so many before, Alex lay sprawled across his twin bed in the dim glow of his phone screen. His eyes were burning, but he couldn't stop. Just one more TikTok, he told himself. Just one more scroll through Instagram. Just one more video on YouTube. Hours would pass, and before he knew it, he'd be staring at the ceiling, wishing sleep would come. His room was messy, textbooks piled in the corner, a half-empty water bottle on the desk, and his laundry scattered across the floor. It wasn't the mess itself that made him anxious. It was the subtle pressure it added to his already overstuffed mind. Worry about homework not done, college essays incomplete, and a nagging sense that he was falling behind in life pressed down on him like a weight he couldn't lift. Alex groaned and tossed his phone onto the desk. But the moment was fleeting. He immediately reached for it again, drawn back into the endless loop of content. A video of a skateboard trick, then a prank video, then a tutorial on guitar chords. The content was entertaining in the moment, yet somehow left him feeling empty, like chewing on air. This isn't even fun, he muttered under his breath. Why do I keep doing this? He had been living like this for years. Some nights, he stayed up finishing homework at the last minute, promising himself that tomorrow he'd be more organized. Other nights, he binge-watched Netflix shows until his eyes felt gritty. Most nights, though, he scrolled, just scrolling, and told himself it was relaxing. It wasn't. He was avoiding something he couldn't quite name. It was more than exhaustion. It was a gnawing anxiety, a dull panic that he couldn't escape. Mornings were the hardest. His alarm would go off at 6:30 a.m., and he'd hit snooze repeatedly. Waking up groggy, unfocused, and resentful of himself. School felt like trudging through fog. Simple conversations with friends became taxing. Even basic decisions, what to eat, whether to finish that assignment, felt impossible. Alex's mom, noticing the pattern, would peek in occasionally. "Alex, you need to get some sleep," she'd say softly, a frown knitting her forehead. "You're going to wreck your body staying up this late every night." "I know, Mom," he'd reply, even though he didn't really know why he couldn't just stop. "I'll put it down soon." But soon never came. And every night, the same cycle repeated. Sometimes, Alex would close his eyes, trying to force sleep. Thoughts didn't stop, though. He'd replay awkward moments from the day. Think about the homework he hadn't done. Worry about the college applications piling up. He couldn't quiet his mind. Sleep was supposed to be the simplest thing in the world. Instead, it felt like an elusive prize just out of reach. One night, while scrolling aimlessly, a quote popped up on his screen. "How you end your day determines how you start tomorrow." He stopped scrolling. For some reason, it struck him like a flash of lightning. Every morning, he realized he had been starting in energy debt. Not money debt, not missed assignments, energy debt. His brain was overdrawn before the day even began. Alex leaned back against his pillows, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, he wondered what it would feel like to reclaim his nights, to have control over the hours before sleep, instead of letting them slip away. What if he could end each day with intention, instead of fading into a haze of distraction and guilt? He grabbed his notebook from the desk and scribbled down a few ideas. Maybe reading before bed, journaling, meditating, tidying his room. He didn't know which would help, but for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe sleep didn't have to be a struggle. Maybe, just maybe, he could change. The next evening, Alex approached bedtime differently. He set his phone aside with purpose, not as an afterthought, and went to his desk with his notebook. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "Let's actually try this." He decided to start with what he called a shutdown ritual. He closed his laptop and made a short list of tasks he hadn't finished and the first 3 things he'd tackle the next morning. The act of writing it down was strangely satisfying, like giving his scattered thoughts a place to rest. Then, he pushed back from the desk and walked across the room to his bed, signaling to himself that the workday was officially over. It felt ceremonial, almost like marking the end of a battle he had been fighting all day. And for the first time in weeks, he noticed the tension in his shoulders begin to ease. His mind, usually buzzing with unfinished tasks, seemed to take a small, collective sigh. Next, he moved on to decluttering his space. 10 minutes. That was all it took. He put his dishes in the sink, hung up his clothes, and tidied the desk enough that he could see the surface clearly. Alex was surprised by the effect. The room, once chaotic, now felt lighter. Somehow, his thoughts followed suit. A quiet calm spread through him, as if clearing the room had cleared the clutter in his mind. "Why does this feel so good?" he murmured, smiling to himself. Step 3 was the hardest, the digital detox. Alex picked up his phone, turned it off, and placed it across the room. His thumb twitched. He wanted to reach for it. Just one scroll, he told himself. But then he remembered the quote from the night before. How you end your day determines how you start tomorrow. He picked up a book instead. A paperback he had started months ago but never finished. The words felt like a bomb, gently pulling him away from the incessant notifications and into a calm, focused state. As he read, he felt his racing thoughts slow. It wasn't immediate, but gradually, he could feel the day's tension slipping away. 15 minutes later, he closed the book and placed it on his nightstand. His brain was quieter, his heart lighter. Then came the mind declutter. He grabbed his notebook again and wrote down everything swirling in his head: homework deadlines, conversations he had replayed 100 times, ideas for a short story he had started, worries about college applications. He wrote it all down without judgment. Once the brain dump was complete, he wrote 3 things he was grateful for: the coffee he had with his mom that morning, the way the sun hit the backyard, and his dog barking at the mailman, making him laugh. The exercise seemed almost magical. The swirling chaos in his mind slowed to a manageable hum. He felt like he could finally breathe again. Alex's next step was his wind-down window. He dimmed the lights, poured a cup of chamomile tea, and played soft, instrumental music. The room smelled faintly of the tea, and the warm cup in his hands was grounding. He sat on his bed, feeling the day's frantic energy drift away, allowing himself to simply exist for a moment. No screens, no work, no pressure, just him, the quiet, and the slow rhythm of his breath. Finally, he added mindful moments. Sometimes he meditated, focusing on his breath. Sometimes he simply closed his eyes and visualized a peaceful place. Tonight, he chose to sit quietly, feeling the rise and fall of his chest. For 10 minutes, he did nothing but exist. No planning, no stressing, no scrolling, just presence. It was astonishing how much his mood shifted, how calm his mind became. Before turning out the lights, he checked his room temperature, adjusted the window to let in the cool night air, and tucked himself in. Sleep no longer felt like a battle. It felt like a reward, the natural conclusion of a day carefully closed and a night intentionally prepared. The first night he tried this routine, he slept better than he had in months. Not perfectly, but deeply enough to notice the difference the next morning. When the alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., he woke up without hitting snooze. He stretched, feeling energy where there had been none before, and even smiled as he headed to the kitchen for breakfast. It wasn't just the sleep, it was the feeling of control, the sense that he could shape his nights and, by extension, his days. The chaos of distraction was no longer a constant companion. Instead, there was intention, structure, and a subtle sense of pride that he was caring for himself in a way he had never done before. Alex's friends noticed a change too. During lunch the next day, his best friend, Marcus, nudged him. "You look different, man. More awake?" Alex laughed, sipping his water. "I think I actually slept last night," he said, and for the first time, he meant it. He realized that this wasn't about perfection or following a strict set of rules. It was about small, consistent habits that could gradually transform his life. Even if one step didn't work perfectly, the next one would. It was the act of trying, experimenting, and caring for himself that mattered most. That night, as Alex prepared to go through the routine again, he felt a strange sense of excitement. The night was no longer a trap. It was a tool. He had discovered a way to end his days intentionally, to quiet his mind, and to reclaim a sense of control over his life, one small, deliberate step at a time. Weeks passed, and Alex began to notice subtle but powerful changes in his life. His mornings became something he actually looked forward to. The groggy, anxious starts that had haunted him for years were replaced with a calm, focused clarity. When his alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., he no longer hit snooze multiple times. Instead, he stretched, took a deep breath, and moved through his morning routine with intention. Breakfast became a quiet ritual rather than a rushed necessity. He poured cereal slowly, drank his orange juice mindfully, and even lingered for a moment to enjoy the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. For the first time in a long time, Alex felt present in the small moments that made up his mornings, instead of trapped in a haze of unfinished tasks and fatigue. School felt different too. In class, he could focus more easily. His teachers noticed the difference as well. Mrs. Parker, his English teacher, smiled at him during discussion. "You've been really engaged lately." "Alex, something changed?" He shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Just trying some new routines," he said vaguely. It was true. What had once seemed impossible, calm, focused energy throughout the day, was now attainable simply by ending each night intentionally. Even socially, things improved. Hanging out with friends no longer left him drained. Conversations felt easier, more genuine. He laughed more freely, participated more, and even found himself initiating plans rather than avoiding them. The energy he had spent chasing distractions at night was now available to live his life fully during the day. One evening, Alex shared his new routine with his younger cousin, Lily. She had been struggling with staying up late to finish homework and check messages for her part-time job. Alex explained the shutdown ritual. First, closing the laptop, making a simple to-do list for the next day, and stepping away from the workspace. Then he walked her through tidying her space, putting away distractions, and creating a wind-down window before bed. "Does it really work?" she asked skeptically, scrolling through her phone as she spoke. Alex smiled. "It won't be perfect at first, but try just one thing tonight. You'll notice the difference tomorrow. Trust me." Lily rolled her eyes, but that night, she did just that. The next morning, she texted him, "I actually slept, and I feel different. Calm, weirdly calm." Alex grinned at her message, realizing the power of one small action, applied consistently, to change everything. As for Alex, his transformation wasn't about perfection or strict adherence to rules. It was about small, intentional steps that added up over time. The night routine was no longer a set of chores or a rigid schedule. It was a mindset. It was a promise to himself that he would end each day with purpose and care, setting the stage for better mornings, sharper focus, and emotional balance. And the change extended beyond sleep. Alex noticed that when he treated his nights intentionally, he felt more capable of handling challenges, less anxious about responsibilities, and more compassionate toward himself. The chaotic, exhausting nights that had once defined him were gone, replaced with calm, intentional evenings that gave him a sense of control and freedom he had never experienced before. One quiet night, sitting by his window with a mug of chamomile tea, Alex reflected on the journey. He thought about the nights of frustration, scrolling endlessly, replaying conversations, and worrying about unfinished tasks. He smiled, realizing those nights had been necessary to teach him the value of intentionality. Sleep was no longer a battle, it was a tool, a gift, a way to care for himself and shape his tomorrow. The lesson was clear. Change doesn't require a dramatic overhaul of life or extreme routines that are impossible to maintain. It requires awareness, intention, and the willingness to start small. One step at a time, consistently, can shift the course of an entire life. Ending your day with purpose allows you to begin each morning with clarity, energy, and focus. The nights don't just end your day, they create your tomorrow. Alex whispered to himself, turning off the lights. "Tonight, I rest. Tomorrow, I begin again." And for the first time in years, sleep was no longer elusive. Sleep was peace, preparation, and possibility. So here's what I want you, the viewer, to take away from Alex's story. Start tonight. Don't wait for a perfect day or the right moment. Pick one small habit from Alex's routine, a shutdown ritual, decluttering your space, or even just placing your phone across the room, and do it. Build slowly, one step at a time. Your nights are not just for resting, they are for preparing your mind, your body, and your life for the day ahead. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. If Alex's journey inspired you even a little, leave a comment below sharing which step you're going to try tonight. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos filled with simple, practical habits that can transform your life, just like Alex's. Remember, change doesn't happen in a day, but one small action tonight can change everything.